Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by PointsBet. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Cody Delmendo. Getting you ready for a week against some East Coast teams. We'll talk about last week, the pitching performance of Caleb Kilian, Matt Swarmer. We've got a prospects expert coming on to join us, Greg Huss, a little bit later on the show. Glad to see Jax on the chat. Everybody joining in. It's an off day. Cubs don't play on Monday, but there is still plenty to talk about today. Let's start. First of all, I just want to know what you guys did this weekend. Cody, I know you had your brother out in the bleachers for the first time ever. Yeah. Was his experience authentic?
It was authentic. It was the only. Well, there are a few good things about Saturday night's game, but that, for me, it was the best part of Saturday night, was introducing him to the bleachers of Wrigley Field, and particularly in left field. There was 2 gigantic anaconda cuff snakes, a couple sections away from us, and people, how people are. It was just, for him, it was kind of like an eye-opening experience. Another set of, like, a dad and a son were building a cup pyramid at one point. That one did not make it as high as the one that we saw.
Was it destroyed as well, though?
Yeah.
It was destroyed very quickly, yes.
All fun is destroyed.
Yeah, all fun was destroyed. But outside of that, we got a great game, and you got to experience the atmosphere of Wrigley Field and Cubs-Cardinals rivalry. And for a while, we were actually like, they might actually win this game. So, we got our hopes up for, a good hour or two, and then I told him after the game, I was like, well, you've been baptized to being a Cubs fan now, because there's been a lot of losing here for a long time. Yeah. So, it was one of those things. But, yeah, it was cool to, take him to the bleachers for the first time.
So did he meet all the usual suspects? Did he meet Bleacher Jeff? Did he meet my Thai guy? Did he meet Ronnie Woo Woo? Did he meet who else would we see out there?
This is Mullet Man. I saw Mullet Man. We did not meet any of those. Bleacher Jeff was there, but we weren't over in his section. We were a few sections over. So, and the bleachers were packed Saturday night. The Cubs-Cardinals Saturday. You expect it, even in a doubleheader day. So, no, he didn't meet any of them. But we did. We got to talking with people around us. I bought that giant pretzel that I've talked about when we did that draft, the Northside Twist. I bought that and brought it into the bleachers. And literally, like, 5 sets of different people asked me, where did you get that? Next thing I know, like, the entire, group of people around us, they all had the giant pretzel. So I feel like I introduced the giant pretzel to some people. The Cubs should probably just pay me for
Northside Twist? Them. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Look at you changing the culture.
Yeah. Bringing the giant pretzels out to the bleachers.
Very nice. So you had first of all, you had me at pretzel.
Yeah.
The experience was there. So that's cool. He got to meet everybody. He saw it's a little bit wilder out in the bleachers, a little bit different. Yeah. It would have been funny if you set him up prank-wise and had him take Bleacher Jeff's seat. And then
yes.
Just set him up to take Bleacher Jeff's seat.
Yeah. We didn't get there early enough. We should have considered that, though.
And then a confrontation right when he arrives to his first game of the bleachers.
That would have been good. But, yeah, didn't get there early enough. We, the first game, me and him watched it at my apartment, and then, like I said, we went to the second game. He's 16, so it's not like I can take him to Murphy's like I would on a normal game that I would go to. But, I think I gave him, the experience. He'd been to Wrigley before, but we sat, first base side a few years ago.
Bleachers are different.
The
bleachers are different. And he was a lot younger then, right? It was 3-4 years ago. So, and he's 16 now. So
16's about the right age to go see the bleachers for the first time. I want to say for me it was senior ditch day. Did you guys have that in high school?
I did.
Right, your last just pick a day where the seniors don't go to class. We all went to the Cubs game.
I couldn't do that because I played baseball in high school, and you had to be in 4 or 5 different periods, or you couldn't play a game. And I think it was a playoff game that night, and just I think I went to school late, but I was still there for 5 of the 8 periods, so it wasn't even really a senior ditch day.
We saw senior ditch day, and I want to say Vance Law hit a home run for the Cubs playing third base. I might be imagining a different game, but I know I went to a Cubs bleacher game for my senior ditch day in high school, circa 1990.
Circa
1990.
Sure wasn't like
that was a year before I was born.
I'm trying to think of like an old timey like name that you could use, like Jenkins McGee or something like that was on the mound in 1914.
Like Locke St. Brown or John
Locke
or
St.
whatever.
John.
Yeah. If you want to move
name.
it to a more normal,
I think Lars Newtbar kind of took over.
What a name,
That's a name. But
Lars
you know what?
Newtbar.
Two things I want to give the Cardinals credit for, Ryan.
Is having a good name.
Newtbar is one.
Yeah.
Two is, and I don't ever say nice things about the Cardinals, I do like their powder blue, their old school like 80s powder blue uniform for the road.
Yeah.
And they should only wear that on the road.
Yeah. I mentioned that to my brother in the bleachers the other night on Saturday and was like, you want me to say something nice about the Cardinals? I do enjoy the powder blues.
Yeah.
I think
at the same
everyone
time,
has
it's just
powder
weird.
blues.
It's good color on a uniform.
Yeah, it is, but it's also weird. Like their uniforms are red. You know,
Right.
They're called the Redbirds.
But it shows me why the Cubs should be wearing those powder blues.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it
They look
shows
good.
me why the V-neck powder blue should be back.
Yeah, it's like the powder
Right.
blues in baseball, pinstripe jerseys in basketball. Like any team that did it looks good.
The Illini did it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Powder
there you go.
blue. The
There you
Illini
go.
baseball team.
Yeah.
My weekend, Luke, was spent working. I did a lot of work
Yeah.
this weekend. But actually, I got a bone to pick. You guys got to rant on Friday. I got to rant today because after the game yesterday, after I got done, went over to Sluggers and warmed up in the batting cages because we supposed to have a softball game tonight. The first softball game I was going to be able to play all season. Warm up. I'm hitting good. I'm going on the slow one because it's slow pitch softball. So I gotta just get my hand-eye coordination going with the speed. And I do well. I feel good. I still got it. And then then we get to today, and they canceled the game.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what the hell?
We know what that probably is.
We all could have gone and played.
The other
scared.
team probably saw you in the batting cage and then was
probably.
like, whoa, we're going to cancel. Have you seen Herrera taking hacks? We got to get him on an off day. They probably rescheduled the whole thing.
Yeah.
I see Corey has joined on the chat.
Corey's
Rachel,
here.
by the way, too, from London. But
Shout out to Rachel.
Corey says, what is Yachty's batting average in the powder blue uni since he blocked you?
Yeah, that's gonna take me a while to go figure that out.
Probably 0.
Probably.
Maybe.
All I know is it's down to 202. It would go down like all weekend. It would go down, and then in his last at bat, he'd get a hit, and it would peak back up to where it was. So, but last night he didn't have a hit, so he's down to 202 since he blocked me on the gram. Whenever I told him he was wrong, that he deserved or that he didn't deserve a Gold Glove finalist spot or whatever it was after the Mickey Mouse season in 2020. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Did you notice Corey's profile pic on this chat?
No beard.
No
facial hair at all.
No facial hair, a side profile, a pontificating hand on the chin.
Yeah.
Very nice. I don't know where he had that taken, but that seems very professional.
It's like
glamour shots at the mall.
I bet that's like on his
maybe.
Bumble account or something like that.
Bumble account.
Or Tinder. If
Would you swipe right on Corey Friedman on that? I don't know.
I would totally swipe right on that
Is swiping
photo.
right yes, or is that a no?
That's a yes.
A yes is swiping
Swipe
right,
yeah.
or would you swipe
We were teaching
left
Stucky
at
new
Corey
things.
Friedman?
Yeah.
He's in the Yankee Stadium dugout. Why would you want a photo there?
You couldn't do it at Wrigley.
Yeah.
I guess not.
I mean, that's terrible. So the Cubs are 9 games under 500. I don't want to eliminate any playoff hopes from anybody's mind because I don't want to tell you how to do it.
Well, Brendan would tell you that they just need to go on a 9-game winning streak and they're
they
right back in it.
They only need to win 9 in a row and they're right back in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good,
It's
but
not great, Bob.
But in general, 2 series against the Brewers and Cardinals, that's about what you expect. Split with the Brewers, 2 out of 5 against the Cardinals, but it could have been much better.
Oh, it could have been. They could have had 9. They were in the losses that they had, the 6 losses, including the White Sox series too. That's the 6 losses they had. They were in, I think 4 of them were 2 runs or less. Like they were in pretty much every game. The one really bad game was obviously that Friday when they got smoked and Frank Schwindel ended up pitching because they didn't want to waste any more bullpen arms. But other than that, they were competitive in every game. And I'm not saying they're a playoff team and whatever, but I also don't think their record, I don't think they're as bad as their record shows, especially at this point. I think they have a lot of good players that are playing well, and they're just not at the level where they can kind of make up for their own mistakes. So when they're getting thrown out on the base paths or they're making errors in the outfield, whatever it is, the team overall just isn't good enough to kind of make up the difference on that. So they have to play really good games to be in it, which they did this week. But then obviously you see Rafael Ortega getting thrown out at home. You add that one run that they could have got later on or something. They're just different. I didn't want to call them mental errors. There's just different things that happen, or mistakes or whatever that ended up costing them games. And not one play will cost you an entire game, but in the grand scheme of things, and those things pile up, or whatever, that does end up. That's the reason why they ended up 4-5 over this last week, but then 5-6 in that stretch. So I just don't think they're as bad as 9 games under 500. They're just, again, when they do make the mistakes, they can't make up for it.
Last night, when it went to extra innings, and Daniel Norris came out there and got Goldschmidt, Arenado, and I want to say Yepez, whoever was after Arenado. When you send Daniel Norris out there in the 10th inning with a guy on second base because of the ghost runner rule or whatever you want to call it, and he gets you a 1-2-3 inning, and then you fail to score, that sums up how the Cubs managed to lose games this week.
Yeah.
Because I was literally thinking in my apartment, I was like, if they do not score in this bottom of the 10th, they're going to lose the game. And what did they do? They gave up 2 runs, and they sent Daniel Norris back out there, and people were mad about that on the internet, and I don't blame people, but at the same time, doubleheader, bullpen's taxed. Thank God for the off day today. I wouldn't have minded if they gave Espinoza a shot because he didn't pitch at all over the weekend. But in the grand scheme of things, it's hard for me to even be mad at Daniel Norris for giving up those runs and then not able to do anything in the bottom half, because it's like the Cardinals gifted them. They gifted them multiple times, and they didn't do anything with it. And that just kind of sums up how the Cubs have been losing games.
Yeah, and then we talked about the getting bases loaded a couple times and not getting a single run out of it. Like that again, it just goes to they're not good enough to they have to take when they get those opportunities. They have to because
they have to take advantage.
Because we see how early in the game they score. They're leading the majors in the first inning runs scored,
which is wild.
Yeah, but then as the game goes on, the offense just isn't there.
Yeah,
and then you have. Daniel Norris, pitched a great 10th, and it was Nolan Gorman, by the way. The strikeout that almost got away from Wilson.
Yeah.
Pitched a great 10th, the heart of the order, and then they get Wilson over to third on. It was a Hap, grounded out, got him over. Clint Frazier strikes out. Patrick Wisdom gets walked, and then P.J. Higgins grounds back up to the pitcher. Right. But it's just those situations where when they get the opportunities that don't come that often, they have to take advantage, and they don't. And then you see at the end of the game when they lose the game, it's like you can look at a point where they have the bases loaded and don't get a run and be like, that obviously did not help. That may not be the sole reason they lost the game, but they need to take advantage of that because that it was clearly not helpful to not get a run of a bases loaded
even
situation.
The 9th inning, they actually score. Higgins comes through big in the 8th inning. You go in the 9th inning with Rowan Wick, and you're like, we've seen him close games before. I was a little nervous because I knew he had pitched just the day before. He threw 30-plus pitches.
Yeah, that's on the chat. Somebody was just asking, why was he in there after 40 pitches the night before?
Because they didn't have anyone else.
It was a long week.
Yeah.
Considering who they had available,
Jared
he was probably your best arm available at that point. And, that's just how it works when you have 2 doubleheaders in 1 week.
Yeah. 2 doubleheaders, and Ryan nailed it with their margin for error because of their roster is very tiny. They can be in games. They've been in games. They were in most of the games, but there's just that fine line between winning and losing, little plays. But teams don't make all those plays. Good teams do, but that's because they have more real major league players. So when you've got guys that are bouncing between the minors and the majors and are maybe, some of them might be, 4A players, that's what happens. You don't have the roster you had 5 years ago. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to lose the games that you had a chance to win.
Yeah. Right. And then you even look at the 9th inning. You mentioned Harrison Bader had that triple, but it looked like if had Morrell played it better off the wall, it probably could have held him to a double. Perhaps. And then it's a shallow fly out to right field, and Hayward does Bader go on that, try to make it a third? I don't know. But then, Newbar gets a single, but if he's at second base, you got a better shot at getting Bader out at home than you do if he's standing on third and can crawl, to home plate. So it's just little things like that. Like you said, Luke, just the margin for error is small. And when they're not taking advantage of the things they need to take advantage of, you could see it, and you could see why they're 9 games under 500.
Yeah. The ESPN broadcast was not very complimentary of the process the Cubs are going through. And I did sit there and wonder, because I looked at some of the Cardinals players and I was like, who? What, this guy's good. Where do they get another guy coming up? And I did wonder to myself, like Cardinals fans or other fans of teams that the Cubs play, what must they think when they see the lineup come out for the Cubs? Like last year you had Bryant, all these names that people were familiar seeing from the World Series run, and now it's Wilson Contreras and what's that guy's name? How old is this guy? I mean, it's weird for Cub fans. Imagine what it's like for the other team when you play the Cubs. They must just look at the roster and go, what's going on?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that all we want, but I feel like at the very least when it came to the lineup, the offense has played pretty well throughout the year. But again, the ESPN broadcast was brutal, especially at the end when they start, like when they gave up the lead. It's 5-3 or in the 10th or 11th inning, and they start comparing ownership between the Cubs and the Cardinals. I had to mute it, guys. Admittedly, I had to mute it. It was everyone has their own opinions about national broadcasts. I try to give them all a chance, but at the end of the day, it's like we're so used to, Pat and Ron on the radio. You're so used to Boog, or if you're a Sox fan, you're used to Benetti and Stone, whatever. And that's not to say that I don't want to hear negative things about the Cubs, but sometimes it's just like they try to push a little bit misinformation or just like what they read or whatever, and like they don't include everything. That's just my opinion. That's not to say that these guys aren't good at like their overall jobs, but that sometimes it just comes off to me as like they're just saying what they're reading or whatever. And
well, they're not. They certainly don't know as much as someone that's
watching the Cubs
in the clubhouse or they're watching every single game. They're going from city to city, and they probably take the night before and maybe a little bit of other time to kind of refresh themselves on the game. But they're not watching every Cubs game. That's just not what's happening. You're right. They're sampling from articles. They're making a couple calls maybe.
Yeah, but that's like, to me, it's like just like sloppy in a way. Like we want to talk, like it's one game a week, Sunday night, one game a week. They have to be ready for one game a week. It's like the NFL, like with whoever's doing those games. It's not like the people doing the NFL broadcast are covering the same team every week. It is one game a week. In my opinion, I just think they should just do a little bit more research. That's all I'm saying. So that's my 2 cents on the broadcast last night.
Let's do we like to do on our off days the power rankings. So let's hit that up real quick. All right.
Okay.
Let's start with number 5. And again, this isn't like these are the best 5 players on the team. It's just kind of how they're going right now. Number 5, I put Ian Happ. He's still having a great season. We don't know where that's going to lead, but he continues to produce for the Cubs, and he's been one of the bright spots, certainly in the outfield this season.
Still played well in left field all season.
Played well. Keegan Thompson now 6-0, so we got him at number 4. But again, you saw those starts, and we'll talk to Greg Huss about it, but these young guys that have come through the system are starting to show up. Obviously, Keegan is the one that has really been highlighted and been successful. Nico Horner, I think Nico's been great. Maybe we'll touch on those reports from Bob Nightingale about who might be a future shortstop or whatever. And to me, Nico's shown he can play everyday shortstop.
Yeah, he. I don't know if he has like the range that like Javi did.
Right.
But he has played well, and he's made good plays like that. The Jeter-esque throws from the hole and stuff like that. And
there's not really a lot to complain about.
Yeah, no, sure. And he's still hitting the ball well.
What did they say on ESPN? One of the best fastball hitters in the league or something.
Yeah, and he puts the ball in play. I don't think he didn't strike out like the last 4 or 5 games that he played. Like he puts the ball in play, and that's kind of all you ask for from a guy like that.
I mean, I love what I've seen from Nico. For me, I've already kind of decided in my head personally that I think he's a big piece of the future, but I know it's a small sample size this season, and he's got to stay healthy, but the progress is there, and he's certainly improving it as a player. Wilson Contreras, I don't know how long he's going to be on the team. I hope it's a long time for Cub fans because it's his best season in the majors.
Oh, he's having an incredible
year. It's not even close. Like, he's absolutely an all-star.
Yeah, he's hitting 276. He's got over 900 OPS, which is, like, by far the best, like, in catchers. And he's also, he's hitting the ball harder than he ever has in the top 2% of the league with, or top 3% average exit velocity. His StatCast numbers are great. His peripherals are awesome.
Far and away the best offensive catcher in the league.
And he's the leader that, the young players gravitate to, so there's that. And who's our number one?
Christopher Morel. Is there anybody more exciting on the Cubs right now than Christopher Morel?
Not right now.
Five hits and played 3 positions in a doubleheader.
Yeah, he's been 20-game on-base streak. I looked it up. That's tied for 15th longest ever, and the longest since 1989, something like that.
Yeah.
He's just putting together a great run, and he might not get on base every time. And it's kind of funny when he doesn't get on base. You're like, damn, he didn't get on base.
Yeah,
what?
What happened with Morel?
It's that, and just the energy and personality, the positivity that you see off the field, in the clubhouse. He is great at the top of the order. It looks like David Ross really likes him at the top of the order. Yeah. And you just see how much the veteran guys, Wilson Contreras, Ian Happ, how much they all really like Chris Morel.
His game-tying double Saturday night when the Cubs were down 3-2. Out of all the games I've gone to this year, that might have been one of my favorite moments of being at the ballpark. Because it was, again, the Cubs were coming back. They were down 3-1 in the game. And he got a big hit and a big moment. And at that time, it was like, look at this kid, just kind of, I don't want to say put the team on his back, but he's just continuing to do things that you're not expecting. I know the regression is going to come at some point, but
maybe not.
He's just doing outlier, insane stuff. So I do think we need to, yes, am I talking myself into it every day that Christopher Morel is our Lord and Savior? Yes. Do I know that he is, not going to get on base every single game at some point? Yes. So I'm just enjoying the ride.
How about your betting ride as we get ready for our guest? I heard the little I know he's getting ready, so let's take care of a couple ads. How's your betting going?
I took a break this weekend.
Oh, good.
But if I were to, make some bets, if I had made bets this weekend, I would have made them on PointsBet. They're the best, guys. And the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com and we'll help you. Remember that PointsBet is your home for live in-game betting. They even have a new exclusive feature, live NBA same-game parlay. For the first time ever, build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Got a few games left, the NBA Finals. I think going to Game 3 on Wednesday. So get into that. Combine your favorite bets anytime during the game. You can even boost your live same-game parlays. And if you didn't know, I don't know how you didn't know, but now online sign-up is available in Illinois. Has been for months. It's awesome. I enjoy it every day except this past weekend. You can actually download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. Every show I say it, if Luke can do it, you can too. It's really that easy. If Luke can figure out how to download the PointsBet app and register your account, I have seen him work a cellular device, a smartphone. It's actually really funny to watch. So if he can do it, so can you. Signing up with the Fast Sportsbook is now easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. Use code CHGO to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Just remember, I was in the bleachers before you were born.
That's true, 1990.
Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I didn't have time, wanted better gut health, more energy, and an optimized immune system. Now I've been on it for a couple months, and I love it. It doesn't taste super healthy, I don't want that gritty, healthy taste. Instead, this is mild, tropical, and I look forward to taking it in the morning. So what is it? 1 scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's a special blend of ingredients supporting your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of those things. I get a noticeable boost in the morning. I started on an empty stomach and giddy up, there I go. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, you're all good with AG1, and it's less than $3 a day for all-in-one nutritional insurance. Recommended by professional athletes, has more than 7,000 five-star reviews, and right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just 1 scoop in a cup of water. It's that simple. You don't need all those million different pills you have to take or supplements. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs. Again, athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs to take ownership over your health. Pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. I'm telling you, the stuff works.
It makes you look a little bit younger. It's made you look a little bit younger. Right?
You guys thought that. You were like, oh, he looks older. Then I walked in and you were like,
No, it was like...
A month later, you're like, what happened with Stucky? And it was like, no, it's the green juice. I'm drinking the AG1.
And it's like, who are you and what did you do with my grandma Stucky?
I love to put it in the smoothies, bro.
That's
right. Smoothie stuff is great.
Guest time. You guys ready?
Guest time.
It's my guy.
Greg Huss. You know him on Twitter as @OutOfTheVines, the host of the Growing Cubs podcast. The podcast is growing, but he's also talking about the prospects that are growing. He's our prospects expert. Greg, how you doing?
What's up, guys? How's it going? I heard there was a big debut this weekend, so you guys wanted to chat about it. I don't know.
Yeah, right?
Kind of, I guess. Maybe a little bit.
Something like that.
What did you think of Caleb Kilian's first game, and what did you think of him prior to that at the minor league level?
Yeah, man, Caleb Kilian has been so fun at the minor league level, and I think that he showcased a lot of what he's done at the minors in the majors in his debut for sure. So a lot of that cutter sinker, right? You're going to see just a lot of the cutter sinker as much as humanly possible from him, and that's pretty much what you saw in that debut. And I think that those 2 pitches are what we've seen from him as long as he's been a top prospect. But it's some of the other offerings that you're hoping to see more of, more utilization of, I guess, for him to continue to improve a little bit.
I mean, I thought it was, was it a spectacular start, the first one? No, but it was certainly solid. Except for the 1 inning, Corey and Brendan mentioned it. I thought what the most impressive thing, just like they did, was that he came back out and he got 3 more outs. He got a strikeout to finish it off, finished on a high note. Didn't let that bother him that 1 inning, and I mean, I thought he was real. The first 3 innings, he was cruising.
Yeah,
that's when I thought, oh, this is going to be a spectacular outing, and then I settled back into, okay, it was solid, but I'll take solid.
Yeah, he was just pumping, upper 90 sinkers in that first inning, and just watching it from left field was, I mean, it was like watching someone I hadn't watched in a while.
Yeah, apparently
most anticipated, prospect. Pitcher-wise for the Cubs in a long time. In my opinion, I think he delivered at least on, the excitement that it brought.
Yeah. Apparently the crowd at Wrigley really enjoyed the strikeout of Yadier Molina.
Man. Ryan, don't
He's
make
in the same
my hair
breath
stand
as,
up like that.
Ben Zobrist now. Caleb Kilian and Ben Zobrist.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, him and Ben Zobrist have something in common.
I got a question, Greg.
Yeah, what's up?
And when you heard that Christopher Morel was getting called up to the big leagues, did you expect him to set the world on fire the way he has?
Not offensively like this, for sure. Not offensively. I mean, because the thing with him getting called up to the bigs was, like, he had the defensive flexibility and the defensive abilities at different positions to be able to, like, hold his own out there. And my thinking was that was why he was called up, because he could play third base, he could play center field, he could back up at shortstop if need be. And I felt like he could get the job done as far as that's concerned. And then as far as the bat goes, I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I figured he'd be up for a little bit and they'd be sent back down to AAA. But as you guys mentioned before, like he's killing it out there. And I think that with him, he brings that presence in the clubhouse, in the dugout that we've seen and we've heard stories about since the day he debuted, that guys like having him around. And if there's any tiebreakers, it goes to the guy that the manager likes having around for sure. But you're right, like offensively, I was not expecting this. I mean, I've watched him hit the ball really, really hard year in and year out. Like, we know the exit velo numbers are crazy on Chris Morel. And we know that he can hit the ball a long ways, but was not expecting him to get on base at this clip, was not expecting him to limit the strikeouts the way that he has to a certain degree. And then drawing walks has always been an issue so far in his pro career. And he hasn't really, I mean, prior to 2021, the walk numbers were bad. Like, not only just kind of like all right, like they were really bad prior to 2021. So he showed the ability to walk a little bit more last year, and the fact that he's doing this at the big league level is kind of crazy to me. You're right. I mean, Cody, you mentioned like the league is going to catch up at some point. Like, the league will catch up in the next few weeks. And then it's, again, just how do you adjust? So that's the name of the game in Major League Baseball, you know?
Yeah. Because we saw it with Seiya. You know, Seiya came here, lit the world on fire. You know, I was an April Rookie of the Month, and then he had a rough May. He easily had a rough May. You can't really argue he didn't, and now he's hurt. But that rookie, because he's still a rookie, that rookie adjustment came, and then obviously it's up to Seiya to bounce back. I don't think Chris Morel has given us, like, maybe he's an outlier, right? I think historically we assume that some point of regression or some point of adjustment is coming, but he hasn't really given us a reason to, like, say that with certainty, right?
Yeah, and I still figure it's coming at some point here. With him, to me, like, I've never really projected him as a regular starter in the major leagues, and I think that you say that and you're like, oh, like he's just a bench guy, and I don't think he's necessarily that either. When you can play as many positions as he can and do them well, like, you're going to get regular starts even if you're not a starter. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I've always pictured Christopher Morel, is just kind of a bench guy that still ends up starting 3, maybe 4 times a week, depending on the time of the year, depending on injuries and stuff like that. So that's still, to me, that's where his value lies, is that defensive flexibility, not the offensive. Anything offensive is icing on the cake, and we've had a lot of icing so far this year with him.
Maybe perhaps now we have to meme Chris Morel, and I took that personally with the Jordan meme, with if he's still doing this going into the All-Star break.
Well, I heard David Ross asked an interesting question about, like, do you prepare him for the inevitable failures and adjustments that come in Major League Baseball? And he was like, nope, there's enough failure in baseball. I don't need to say that, and I don't even want to put it in his head. Yeah. Who are we to say he's not going to go from what Greg was saying, this utility player, starting maybe 3 times a week, to something more than that? He doesn't want to cap that and have that conversation with him. He started out great, and baseball's a funny sport. The light goes off for some guys, and the light comes on for some guys at strange times. Maybe that's the time for Morel. We don't know. It's way more likely that the scenario we're talking about, that sooner or later the adjustment's going to come. Sure, there's going to be some failure, but we don't know. This might be the guy. So, Greg, my question would be, who else is down there in the farm system that might be the next guy to come up? Because we've all been surprised by Morel. So now who might be the next guy to come up and surprise us, if that's the right word? Because I don't think Morel is going anywhere. I know the Bodie decision's coming really quickly, and some other roster moves will be happening, but I don't think Morel's leaving the Cubs anytime soon.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been, and we meaning all the prospect nerds out there, have been blessed with a lot of prospect debuts in the big leagues over the past few weeks. I mean, between Kilian and Espinoza and Velasquez, I mean, a lot of guys, Brandon Hughes. And so that leaves, there's not a whole lot of guys left over in like AAA that haven't already debuted and gotten some games in. I'll tell you what, the Cubs have been really, really good at developing relievers, both in terms of like the guys, the veterans being brought in, taken to the pitch lab that we all talk about, you know, and develop that way, or prospects. And that's kind of the next wave of guys here is more relievers. We've seen Brandon Hughes, we've seen Ethan Roberts early on in the year. But next up, I mean, we've got Brian Hudson, who's doing really well in AAA. We've got Ben Leeper, who's down there. Kane Eckert hasn't been quite as good as he was last year in AAA, but there's a lot of relievers that still have a chance to make an impact in Chicago, and that works out well with Michael Givens is gone at the trade deadline. David Robertson is gone at the trade deadline. So there's going to be spots that need to be filled, and Brian Hudson and Ben Leeper especially, those two guys are guys that can make an impact in Chicago this year.
We've had this question up on the screen for a little bit from Tyler. I met him on the Red Line the other night. Shout out to you, man. Do y'all think that Kilian will be back in the majors again before the trade deadline? Greg, you might know. I wasn't really surprised that they sent him back down with 2 off days this week. I suspect he'll be back before the trade deadline, but how do you think the Cubs play this out?
To me, it's injury or trade deadline, whichever comes first. I think that whenever they can give him a permanent spot in the rotation, like I don't think he's coming back up without a permanent spot in the rotation. You know, I mean permanent meaning like the rest of the year, give another trial for the rest of the year. But whether that's another guy, and we've seen plenty of injuries this year. So whether that's another guy going down or when Wade Miley and Drew Smyly are shipped out, or I mean, I guess they're both hurt right now. But I guess the point is that once he gets a permanent spot, so that might be July before the deadline. It might be after the deadline. But my thinking is it's fun to think this way, but I think that once he's up for good.
Ian Happ's a guy who benefited from going down to AAA for a little while. We saw Kyle Schwarber go through the same process. Is it possible we're going to see, as these roster moves start to happen, that maybe Nick Madrigal could benefit from a little more time in the minor leagues, like a little more work on some things? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, Nick Madrigal is an interesting case. I don't know. To me, like his skill set, I don't see how he benefits a ton from going down to AAA. I know that people are, because he's been bad, it's like, let's send him down to AAA. And I get that. I totally understand that. But I made the same argument back a few years ago with Albert Almora, where like his skill set, he makes a lot of contact. And because he makes a lot of contact, it's not always good contact. I don't know how you can improve that in AAA. I mean, you can always work on specific things. You're less focused on winning baseball games. But, I mean, it's not like the argument back in the day with Albert Almora was, let's get him consistent playing time in AAA. I think that that's the same thing with Nick Madrigal. Let's get him consistent playing time and make sure that he's not hurting the major league team. But, like, what are you hurting the major league team at this point where, like, if he's playing every day, like, let's just let him get his work in as an everyday player in the majors. Like, he's shown that he's too good for AAA, so why send him back down at this point? I don't know. I'm all for, like, the development of players continues, especially from the pitching standpoint. I'm all for, like, the continuing development of players once they reach the major leagues. But a guy like Madrigal, I don't think that profile fits the mold of, like, going back down to AAA and actually, like, improving who he is as a player.
I'd agree, just because, like, who else do you want to see play at second base right now for the Cubs outside of Morel, who can play 5 different positions right now? Yeah. David Bodie's coming back, but like he can play. He doesn't have to play second every time either. I think Madrigal is. I think a lot of his case, he's coming off that injury, and he just got hurt again. Yeah. And he's just been back. He did have a 2-hit night the other day. Again, what the Cubs need to see and what we as fans need to see from Nick Madrigal is he needs to start shooting the ball down the lines or in the gaps, because he's not going to hit homers and he's just never going to have the slug. But if he's ever going to have any extra base hits, it's going to be in those gaps or in down the first and third base lines. And we've just seen a lot of ground balls a second. I mean, he's looked like Jason Hayward out there, man. Let's be real.
From the right side of the plate.
From the right side of the plate, yeah. So he just has to start hitting the ball harder and not on the ground. And I thought the way that he had success with the White Sox was because he was shooting the ball the other way into the gaps or down the line, and how he gets back into that form. I do think a lot of it has to do with just coming off the injury and not playing a lot last year. I know that's a bad excuse, but with where the Cubs are, and kind of like what Greg was saying, with what's the point whenever this Cubs team is not really a contender at all? You might as well just keep giving him at bats up here and just ride it out the entire year. Hopefully, he starts to find some success here soon. I really did think after the 2-hit day over the weekend, I think it was the first Saturday game. I could be completely wrong about that, but I do know he had a 2-hit game against the Cardinals this weekend with a walk, by the way, as well. I thought that might have been a great, building block, for future games. And it's just been really inconsistent.
Yeah, the only thing I can see or why he would get sent down is we talked about the roster crunch coming. Bodie's coming back. Like there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed up the middle.
It's true.
Shortstop, second base, because then you got Simmons, obviously Nico, VR is about to come back too, which isn't like me saying, oh, these guys all need playing time, whatever. It's just that's the reality of the situation. And so I could see, because that would probably end up meaning that Madrigal wouldn't be playing every day, and whatever slump is going on, he's not going to be able to work on those things every day. Then I could see it, okay, send him to AAA. He's not working on something specifically, but he's just getting every day at bats. Because I think one of those intangible things is that rhythm at the plate and playing every day and getting consistent at bats and just kind of finding your rhythm. And he kind of talked about when we talked to him when he got activated and just he wasn't in that rhythm, but it also the back maybe had had its effect on that, because even he was talking about just the movement he does and at the plate during his stance, it just wasn't happening, and so maybe the back affected that a little bit. But we talk about the rhythm, and is he a guy? He has options. Is he a guy that could go down to AAA and just play second base every day and hit every day get 4 at bats a day, whatever it is, while these other guys like Simmons and Bodie and VR and take playing time at second base? Again, it's not an argument that any of them should be playing over Nick Madrigal. It's just that's when I look at him, if there's a scenario where he does get sent down to AAA, that's why I feel it would happen.
And the only problem with that thought is that eventually he's going to have to get used to not playing every day. Yeah. That may not be his role at the major league level. All these guys are kind of trying to find their way, and if you're going to make it at the major league level, you've got to somehow show that when it's your shot, whatever day that is, you've got to develop. I was going to ask Greg, we had the big news over the weekend as well with Brennan Davis and the injury between Brennan Davis and Ed Howard. How tough is that hit just for the farm system in general? And what do we expect now from Brennan Davis? I know it's a different type of back thing. They're talking about blood vessels and nerves and stuff, and there was no structural damage, but you still don't want to hear your top prospect have any kind of back surgery.
Yeah, that's tough. Especially coming off a couple of weeks after the Ed Howard, like you mentioned, him being out for the year. It's interesting though. I think with Brennan Davis and Ed Howard, and looking at two essentially season-ending injuries, is that I'm much more concerned about the Ed Howard injury than I am the Brennan Davis injury. With Brennan, he's already a guy that at 22 years old is up in AAA, and he is. So it's not like he is trying to prove that he belongs in the upper levels of the minors. He's already proven that he can go out there and get his numbers and get his stats and quickly develop. If you look at Brennan Davis's just build between 2 years ago and today, it's absurd. He is a very quick developing player, and so I'm a little less concerned. I said it on the podcast on our podcast that actually just dropped today, that with Brennan Davis, unless a crazy scenario happens, mostly involving Pete Crow Armstrong being insanely good, Brennan Davis still enters the 2023 season as my number one prospect in the system, and I feel pretty comfortable saying that, just because I'm far less concerned about his development because of the injury. He's a guy that we expected, that we kind of hoped that he might be the best outfielder in Chicago this year. Not the best, not a starting outfielder, the best outfielder in Chicago. So. Again, I'm not too awful concerned about his development, his lost development this season. Like I said, I'm much more concerned about Ed Howard, a guy who's in the lower minors, who was a guy from Chicago, drafted out of high school, cold weather state guy. I'm much more concerned about Ed Howard's development and him performing offensively in the future rather than Brennan Davis, who's already proven how good he is.
Yeah, I've been telling these guys since before the season that we weren't going to see Brennan Davis before the All-Star break. This is not the scenario that I envisioned. I was just thinking solely just based on development and just what other players are on the big league club they want to get a look at. This wasn't what I had in mind.
Dude, people are going to sleep on Brennan Davis at this point. Now that he's missed this, he performed so poorly the beginning part of the year because of the injury, right? And then he missed the rest of the season. People are going to sleep on him entering 2023, and that's fun to me. When a guy gets slept on and is going to go perform so well next year, that's going to be fun seeing him perform as well as I know he can. Because, guys, he is no joke. Brennan Davis is the truth. I'm not don't take it easy on him. He is very, very good baseball player.
So have you pretty much reeled him out the rest of the season then, based off what we know?
Based off what we know, it sounds like that maybe we can get him in the Arizona Fall League after the year's over, and just to get some extra at bats. But I don't know. I don't want to rule anything out. I guess from what I've heard,
I don't know anything about
like
backs and back surgery. So if you know things about back surgery, Greg, you need to let the people know, man.
I'm a back surgery expert, so that's why you guys had me on, right? Because I have
exactly we need the inside scoop
Surgeon
on back
Greg
surgery.
Huss.
Yeah, Surgeon Greg Huss.
All right, well, I got a question for Greg. This could be the start of our mailbag segment, but are you much of a gambling guy?
I'm not much of a gambling guy. I'm not. No.
Okay. Well, if you ever change your mind,
Cody especially.
If you ever change your mind and you enjoy us and you want to help us out, one way to help us continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all our web content, including mine, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. Any questions, email PointsBet at allchgo.com and we'll help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish all from your phone. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet, live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. I guess the first one I want to ask you, we go through our Discord. We have a Discord with members, and this is kind of where we throw our mailbag questions in. So if you want to have your question read out in the mailbag, make sure you sign up at allchgo.com, get access to that Discord when we throw in these Mailbag Monday stuff.
And the Hot Lounge too.
And the Hot Lounge.
We're still working on those robes, but
lure robes. We're working on it.
We're working on it.
So our first one is from Dead Gecko. He asks, does PCA make it to AAA this year? I know he just got promoted to High A, so I think I would say probably not, but you're the prospect expert. So does PCA make AAA this year?
Talk me into it. Let's go.
There is no way. There's no way.
How high can he go?
I'm about a hype man as possible on some of these prospects. If PCA makes it to AAA, he's the number one prospect in all of baseball. Like all of baseball, if that happens. So, no, I think if he makes it to AA, it would be ridiculous. Like I think that we see him probably play the rest of the year in South Bend in High A because, he's still only 20 years old. Like this is his first full season of professional baseball. So, There's no way he makes AAA. It would be absurd if he makes AA, and I'm here to watch it happen, I guess.
You said you're a hype man. What is your favorite thing or favorite aspect of his game when you watch him play? Like what should people be looking out for when he does start making these jumps?
Dude, it's like the swagger with PCA is through the roof. Like he's doing everything that we had hoped for when coming into this year. Basically, I had said that in order to be like a top 50 guy in all of baseball, he needs to either develop power or he needs to show he can continue to take walks at the plate. And if he can do both of those things, then he's really a top prospect in baseball. And he's done both of those things. So he's been a really well-rounded player, but really the thing that makes him so exciting to watch is just the swagger he plays with on the field. He walks around like he knows he's the best player on the field. And it's fun. It's fun to watch him. He's got the speed. He's got the power. He's got the speed to be the best in the National League, I guess. He is fun, man, and it's the aggressiveness that he plays with too. He's always extending singles to doubles if he gets the chance. I saw him score go first to third on a little dribbler in front of home plate. He is playing all out all the time.
What should we be too excited about Matt Swarmer? His 2 starts were both great. I know he's not a top prospect, but again, just like Christopher Morel, he's come up and done a nice job. And what can you tell us about Swarmer that would just kind of add to what he's shown us in his resume the first 2 games?
I really like that he could potentially be a reliever moving forward. I know that Ryan, you collaborated with Brendan on your article about Matt Swarmer recently, and the way that was kind of laid out did a really good job of doing that because the slider I think is terrific. I think the slider is a next level pitch, and his willingness to continue to throw that slider, and it's a very unique, as you can read in the article, very unique pitch in the way that it drops off the table. I mean, a lot more vertical or movement down than it is horizontal movement with that slider. And I just don't really see a guy being able to stick as a starting pitcher with only two pitches. You know, he's got that slider, and really like the fastball is pretty pedestrian for the most part. I mean, low 90s fastball. So he's got the one really good pitch. I think I was listening to the Compound with Ian Happ and Zach Short and Dakota Mekas, and I think it was Mekas that was mentioning that like the thing that makes Matt Swarmer so good is that he just throws the slider as many times as he possibly wants to. You know, and like as a batter, you're expecting if you get 3 straight sliders, like you're not going to get another slider. But with Matt Swarmer, you can get like 7 or 8 straight sliders, and you still have to expect that coming at you the next pitch too. And like that's what makes him good. And I think that 2-pitch mix can work in the bullpen. It's been fun to see him do what he's doing in the rotation so far. Like he just took, I mean, his performance these past 2 outings has been phenomenal. So, but I think that I'm seeing him more hopefully as a reliever down the line. If he can stick as a reliever, I think you take that every day of the week.
Ross compared him to Aaron Herrera, who he caught out in Cincinnati, who was mostly a 2-pitch pitcher and had a like 13 or 14 year career in the big leagues. So, but it was funny because when we, Schwarmer's first strikeout, we were still in the dining room up in the press box, and we saw it, and we're like, was that a curveball? Like, is that a split? We were arguing about what it was. I don't know if anyone actually thought it was a slider, just because it just dropped, like no horizontal movement. At least it looked like so. That was kind of funny. Our next question is from Rachel. She's in the chat too, but she's out in the UK. Our good friend. She asks if DJ Herrera is shoving, when will we see him in Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, Rachel knows that DJ Herrera. I mean, he's just always shoving. Like he just will continue to do so as long as he's in a high A baseball. His outing this last week was one of the best performances that I've seen from a starting pitcher during my time covering the minor leagues. Like it was outrageous. I think it ended up being 12 strikeouts, and he could be up in Double-A right now. Like if he gets the call tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we're doing this on a Monday, obviously, and a lot of the transactions happen on Tuesdays or get announced, I guess, Tuesday in preparation for the minor league week. And so if we see DJ Herrera in Double-A come tomorrow, I wouldn't be shocked at all. And at the very least, like he will be up there in the next month or so. So I'm excited to see DJ Herrera shove because he is very clearly way too good. And my thing with guys getting called up to the next level is like you love to see them just dominating and putting up really good stats and stuff like that. But for me, it's when you can go out there and not have your best stuff and not look your best and still get a lot of outs. That's when you are too good for the level, And DJ Herrera, very rarely does he not have his best stuff. Like he has his best stuff a lot, but the few times he hasn't, he's still been able to kind of bulldog mentality his way through it and get a lot of outs. So I'd like to see him continuing to go deeper into starts because right now he throws a lot of pitches for not going a whole lot of innings. He actually throws it's either the first or second most pitches per plate appearance of any Cubs pitcher in the system this year. So he's throwing a lot of pitches. I'd like to see him go deeper in starts, but at some point, like you have to balance like him going deeper in starts or him dominating. Like he deserves a call up to Double-A.
You mentioned just like the guys getting called up and like succeeding. Obviously, I mean, what do you think of Owen Casey, named minor league player of the month? It was kind of an aggressive like placement, right? At South Bend at this point, but I mean, what have you seen from him?
I mean, young dude that I know that it was were we going to see Owen Casey or PCA start the year in high A and Owen Casey was the guy that got that kind of aggressive promotion to start the year. And he looked, I mean, there's no other way around it. Like he looked really bad in the month of April. Like he looked bad. And for him to just completely flip the script and end up taking home the Cubs minor league player of the month award for May is like, we can't overstate how impressive that is. From a development standpoint, like that he was able to learn and pick up what these pitchers are doing that quickly that he can take home that award. It's pretty impressive. I mean, with Owen Casey, you're talking about a guy with arguably the best power in the entire system. Like he puts up stupid exit velo numbers. His hands are so fast at the plate, and that's what I'm looking for with a guy who could potentially have really good power as he climbs ladders. Those hands, and for him to like I said, for him to flip that script like that is like we can't talk about that enough.
Yeah, and he's 19 still, like not even gonna be 20 for another month or two.
He's one of the top 5 or I guess 5 youngest players in the Midwest League this year. So to start off the year, so like he was facing pitchers that were on average like at least 3 years older than him. So that's a tough task,
Yeah. Canadian, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. And so coming from not a cold weather state, but coming from Canada, like it's always tough on those guys to come into professional baseball where like they weren't playing baseball year round. And when they were playing year round, like they were playing in a warehouse, like they were practicing fly balls in a warehouse. It's like how like that's not easy on your development as a young kid.
Hey, we had Fergie, we had Ryan Dempster, Owen Casey, the next great Canadian Cub.
We'll see if he ever gets to the size of like Rowan Wick or Tyler O'Neill. Those are huge. Like Tyler O'Neill's forearms are just like bigger than my quads. Yeah. Like so we'll see if Casey's on his way for that. We got another one from Rachel. She said, given his recent performance, will we see Greg? I don't remember if it's Dykman or Diekman. Will we see him come back anytime soon? He got optioned. Not optioned. He got DFA'd a couple months ago. I don't remember if he actually made it like to the season before. I think it was like during spring training when he got DFA'd and then went to AAA. Is there a chance he comes up anytime soon?
Yeah, I don't know. With him, with Dykman, it's interesting because he did start the year on the 40-man roster in Iowa and just was. I mean, talking about a guy like Owen Casey that had a rough start to the year and has turned it on. Like Dykman is that guy. He's been hot the past week or so. I think he had a stretch of 4 home runs in 5 games, something like that, this past week. And he was another guy that was not very good early on in the season and led to that being DFA'd. He's an older guy for a prospect. Had a weird path of getting to the major leagues last year with him having the COVID year, being an older draft pick anyways, and then missing some time and having to climb up the ladder, being Rule 5 eligible really early, all that stuff. Like a lot of things going against Greg Dykman. And so I think that if he's getting called up back up to the bigs, it's because they feel confident that he can be DFA'd again and move back off the 40-man roster. And those guys, I mean, from outside of like a player's perspective, like for the major league team, those guys have a lot of value and like guys that are good enough to like be on the back end of a roster, but feel confident enough you can DFA them and get them back off the 40-man if need be. I mean, we saw that with like PJ Higgins. We saw that with PJ Higgins last year, that he was off the 40-man roster, called back up, and now he's playing an important role on the major league team right now. So that's where his value. I think that's where Dykman's value lies, is that he is on the fringes of the roster.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 40-man. I think that's one of the things that just like the average fan just like doesn't understand how much maneuver. Like you saw this week, just how much maneuvering has to go into all this stuff, especially when injuries are popping up, when guys are going on 10-day instead of 60-day, like stuff like that. I mean, it's so to get Greg Dykman on the 40-man would still like take one of those moves, and so I think that's another hurdle or obstacle that kind of would stand in the way.
I think there's plenty of guys that have passed Dykman on the pecking order, I guess. I mean, we've seen Velasquez up now, and I mean, he was a guy that was in high A when Dykman was in AAA, and now he's kind of surpassed him, So he's fallen down the pecking order quite a bit, but at least he's got that experience in the upper minors, and that's valuable in itself.
We got one more.
Last one.
One more from Furious Jeff.
I actually have one too. All right.
Well, this is from Furious
Jeff.
We'll
stretch it just a little bit.
Is Jordan Nwogu a guy? I don't think he is asking. I think he's asking to see a good player.
He is a human being. Yes. Jordan Nwogu is one of the freakiest athletes I've ever seen. Like he was recruited to play football in college. Like he is a massive, massive human being. And he kind of has done this thing this past 2 years where last year he's in Myrtle Beach in low A and had like a god awful first half of the year. And he was going through a lot of different swing changes because his swing was really, really ugly when he got drafted. A lot of like hitches in his swing and the bottom half not communicating with his hands and like just really rough. After he went through those mechanic changes, he like took off. He had one of the best second halves of the year last year. And then he did the same thing, not half-wise, but he got off to a rough start and then has really turned it on recently. And now he's like an above-average hitter overall for the course of the season. I think he can be a guy, especially because he's shown the ability to play some center field. When he was drafted, everyone just assumed DH and was hoping that he could play some left field. And now he's playing left field and even dabbling in some center field. And that increases his value like exponentially, and being able to play that position even at all, not even playing it like really well, but just being able to be played in center field. And with him, like if he can, I think the swing changes haven't quite been perfected up to this point, but if he can fix those swing changes a little bit more, like the power is tremendous. Like the power is really, really good just because he's such a huge dude. And I know that I mean, he was another guy that was a cold weather state. Like he was drafted out of Michigan, Corey Freeman, your boys, alma mater over there. So for him to come out of Michigan should be interesting to see how he develops. Should be an interesting case. He'll probably spend the rest of the year in South Bend, maybe dabble at the end of the year in AA. But once guys get up to AA, man, I've said this for a long time. Like once guys get up to AA, like all bets are off, you know? I mean, because we see like Chris Morel or Anderson Espinoza like being called up to the bigs from AA. So you want to see them succeed as much as possible in lower minors, because it doesn't matter if you're in AA or AAA. If you're hitting the ball, if you are playing really, really well, like you're just a call away from the bigs.
All right, Cody, last question, because we don't want Greg to charge us double time here.
All right.
Overtime.
So Jack R. in the comments asked earlier, like, it's related to Wilson Contreras. He said, you know, if Contreras, you know, we think he's probably going to be on his way out, who are some prospects out there that you think would be that could be possible that come back for Contreras if that were to happen? Again, I don't support it, but if it were, sell me on someone that I can be like, all right, I think that at least I'll be able to, you know, buy into it.
Yeah, I can't give any specific players. I mean, because my following of the Cubs system, like I don't follow other systems as much as the Cubs, just enough that I can have some guys to compare the Cubs system to for the most part. But I think that the way Jed Hoyer, for better or worse, has been building out this organization through trades has actually been really, from a prospect guy's perspective, really impressive in the depth throughout the system. Right? When the Cubs' last competitive window, everybody seemed to come up at the same time. We saw KB and Javi and all those guys coming up at the exact same, Schwarber and everybody, it's the exact same time. The way the system has been built out the past couple of years here is that you should be seeing debuts a few debuts every year, and some major debuts. We've seen Kilian and Velasquez and Morel this year. We've seen, we'll probably see next year Brennan Davis, and we'll see some of the AA guys that are there this year, Chase Strumpf, guys like that. But then, like the Cubs Jed Hoyer just went out and got all those teenagers in trades last year. Like what we've been talking about forever, right? Like the Kevin Alcantaras and PCAs and guys like that. And to me, there's so much value in building an organization that way, as opposed to like banking on one season. Like, hey, 2024, we're going to go all in for 2024. Okay. Or you could just build an organization that is equipped to continue building year in and year out, like what we've seen the Dodgers do. Dodgers always seem to come up with new guys that they're calling up every year. Every single year, man. Exactly, yeah. So I guess a super roundabout way of answering Jack's question here, is that I could see when they acquire talent for Wilson Contreras, when they do, more than likely. I don't think that because the way the system is built out right now, I don't think he's going to go and get 5 teenagers. I also don't think he's going to go get 2 major league ready players. I think he's going to kind of get a few guys on all the levels of the system, because like there's not as many holes in any level of the system that need to be filled out right now. So I can't say any exact names. I mean, a team is going to have to throw in a couple like top 100 type guys in order to get Wilson Contreras in a trade, I would imagine. But the Cubs have also done a good job. Like the trades they made last year, right? Like they didn't get a lot of top 100 guys at the time, but the scouting plays were huge. Like PCA had only played like 6 professional games when they acquired him. Kevin Alcantara had only played in the Arizona Summer League. There's guys like Daniel Palencia was acquired, and he had played very, 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 very few professional games. So it's like scouting is so important that you're not just banking on like, if the Cubs don't get 3 top 100 guys, it doesn't mean the trade's a bust. It just means that like it might be a scouting play from the front office.
Good stuff. Yeah, Greg, that's the way you avoid the full rebuild again.
Yes,
maybe it's just, one guy gets traded next time, and you continue to have that success with a farm system that's built top to bottom. So, Greg, awesome stuff. Thanks for joining us. You can follow him on Twitter @OutOfTheVines, or you can download his podcast. He is the host of the Growing Cubs Podcast. Greg Huss, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate you having me on. You guys all take care.
Take care, man.
And thanks for listening to the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by PointsBet. Don't forget to use that promo code CHGO to get your risk-free bets up to $2,000. Orioles in town. Yankees in town. Get ready for some games against the Orioles and the Yankees. What's the East Coast?
East Coast. It'll be East Coast.
Yeah.
Rizzo's return.
Can't wait to be heard by Rizzo this weekend.
I don't know. By the way, Jack R. Ross said that just extra rest for Kyle Hendricks, so that's why
extra rest.
He's not pitching in Baltimore. But yeah,
also, we didn't ask Greg about Max Bain because we don't need to. He shoves. I know he's struggling right now, but he shoves, and we're going to see him at Wrigley one day.
We also didn't talk about Patrick Wisdom's knob, but maybe for another day.
No, that's what I was thinking.
One day
that's another
Patrick
show.
Wisdom's
the knob is another
I can't
show.
Wait. I look forward to the day we talk about Patrick Wisdom's knob, guys.
All right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Until then, fly the W.